Hey, it's Mike with USCCA. Today I'm going to show you guys 3 drills that I like to use under dry fire. Now, what is dry fire, you might be asking? Well, it's basically practicing without the ammunition. So we're gonna practice our reloads, we're gonna practice our draws, we're gonna practice our grip. 90% of shooting can be done at home under dry fire, no ammunition. You don't have to pay money to go to the range, you don't have to pay money for ammo. It's just a really good way to train. And how much do you need to dry fire? Not that much. If you even dry fire for 5 minutes a week, just pick up the gun and feel it. It's gonna make you better than not. So what do you actually need to dry fire? Well, you don't need a whole lot, you just need your gun, that's number 1. It'll help if you have your magazines, it'll help if you have snap caps or dummy rounds. Those are probably the 3 most important things you can have. But there are other tools out there. For instance, there's electronic tools like a Mantis, that's a brand that people use where it fires a laser at an LED sensor. There's a lot of different things. We've done videos in the past where we've shown shooting simulators, but dry fire is the simplest way and you don't need a whole lot. So a few things that I've acquired over the years. One, I do like to train sometimes with a SIRT pistol. Now SIRT is a great plastic gun. It's in the shape of the Glock that I use anyway, and it has a releasable magazine, and it's got a very comparable weight to a live weapon. It also has a laser and a trigger laser. So when I pull the slack out of the trigger, it gives me a red laser. Then when I fire, it gives me a green laser, which is great because we want to practice pulling the tension out of the slack, and we want to know if the finger is on the trigger. This is a great tool for seeing exactly where the impact would be in your weapon. But you don't have to have that. You can also use just references on your wall. So today I'm using something called a dry fire sticker. So they're just targets, USPSA, IDPA, different type shaped targets stuck onto the wall to give you a reference point. This will help with tracking where your eyes go. This will help where your natural point of aim would go. You can also move. This is going to do a lot for you. So the company we're using today is Go Fast, Don't Suck. They make pretty good products. And we're sticking them on the walls here in the gym, and we're going to move around and do some dry fire drills. I think the best benefit you get from dry fire is not the recoil, because most of the recoil devices out there aren't the same. Even when you're using air, it's always a little bit weaker. It helps, but it's not the same. Something that you really want to get out of dry fire shooting is the natural point of aim, the reloads, the manipulations themselves. So you can really increase reload time, you can really increase your draw times, and you can really increase the speed that you transition from target to target and how steady you are through dry fire. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. 3 drills that are going to make me faster and better at shooting without any ammunition. Anytime you want to dry fire, always make sure you don't get complacent about this. Clear and safe your gun. The last thing you need is to fire off a round inside your home, scare the crap out of everyone, or even worse, hurt somebody. So make sure you get a buddy check as well. So for this, I have my empty magazine that I keep in here. I lock it back, I check chamber, and I check magwell, and then I give it to my friend if I have somebody there to check chamber and magwell. So I've got my empty magazine that I put inside here. I also check my spare mags or any other mags I'm going to use, and I've put a bunch of dummy round snap caps inside, and they also have an orange indicator on the back that lets me know it's not live fire. Just check your pockets because, like I said, the last thing you want is something to go wrong when you're practicing. All right, so in your house, you may have little things like pictures on the wall, little pieces of art, and you can pinpoint little pieces that you want to highlight to be your targets. In this case, we have the Go Fast, Don't Suck targets. We have our 1/3 size USPSA targets with the A zone, C zone, D zones. And over here, we set up the same thing and also other steel targets as well. You don't have to have these, but it really helps make things a little bit more fun because, well, dry fire does get boring and most people don't want to do it. I'm going to be working from concealed today to practice my concealed draw. Whatever you do, whether you're a police officer, you carry concealed, you're in the military, I always recommend you train for how you carry in your everyday situation. You run in an off-body bag, train with your off-body bag. If you run competition, obviously train with your competition belt on. If you're a soldier, have your full kit when you're dry firing, or at least at a minimum wear your chest rig and your holster, because the equipment is what you need the muscle memory on. So I'm going to be practicing on my draws right now. So first drill, draw. Draw speed and natural point of aim and your presentation. So I pick one of my targets, and all I'm going to do is work my draw. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working on pulling the fabric away, pushing out, and having my natural point of aim. And I want my natural point of aim to be consistent. So if I realize that I push out and I'm aiming at the head, well, if I'm supposed to be at the chest, I'm aiming too high. So I need to fix that grip angle and build that muscle memory. What I like to do with my natural point of aim is I use my thumb on my support hand as a guide for where I'm actually pushing. There's a few different references you can use. That's the one I use. Call this the basic drill. Now, how do we want to advance this drill? Anytime I want to advance a drill, I usually just increase the time standard, but in this case, I'm going to increase the movement standard. So when it's time to draw, I step off the X. So it's just a simple one step to the left or one step to the right. It wakes up your feet and reminds you that when stress happens, you want to keep those feet moving. You want to run away, you want to move to cover, whatever that is. I wake up the feet. So I step to the left or right off my draw. Now you might notice I'm changing the way I draw. I may pull from here, I may pull from here. That's fine. Another thing I like to do is I like to change my garment. So I may put on a sweatshirt, I may put on a jacket, practice different ways when I'm dry firing, because I don't always go out in just a t-shirt and pants. I may be wearing something totally different. So most important piece about this drill is you're practicing. Start slow, get consistency, build up the speed. You want to go advanced, just add a little bit of movement. The next drill I'm going to work on is target transition. So I have multiple targets going from one to the next. Now, I like to lead with my eye to target, right? Eye leads to gun, gun follows. So I look over at the target, I look to target, gun follows to target. Look to target, gun follows to target. And something I tell people a lot is when you're working on where you're aiming, be specific, okay? A lot of people will look at the whole target and they'll just say, shoot the target. What I like to focus on is something, one single entity. So if I'm looking at the U on USCCA, I look at the U, not the whole thing. I don't look at the chest, I look at the U. So if your target has little points on it, that's what you want to aim for. Aim small, miss small. You've probably heard this 1,000 times. Aim small, miss small. So you're training your eyes to focus and fixate on some point as opposed to just a general box. So the drill I'm going to be doing, I'm going to start nice and slow. I'm going to have target transitions that are narrow. I'm going to have target transitions that are wide. And then I'm going to add movement to make it a bit more advanced. Target transitions that are narrow, I'm just going to draw, take my shot, transition, take my shot. I still like to draw because when I'm drawing, I'm still practicing my draw. Draw. I try to keep everything real, everything to how I would live fire. So if I scan after my shots, I scan when I'm doing the dry fire. If you don't do that because you're running for like competition or for you're playing, that's different. So train it exactly how you want to run it in real life. For me, it's for self-defense. So I take my shot, I scan to the next target, and then I scan and assess like what's going on afterwards. So now making it a bit more challenging, I'm going to go to a wider angle, which is going to force my head to actually turn and look for the target. It's kind of easy when everything's in my peripheral vision that I can just shift and shift. But now, what if that angle is closer to 90 and I have to fire, turn, look, identify the target, fire. So warm up, I'm just going to go back and forth, practice looking, shooting, looking, shooting, looking, shooting, and then I'll go into doing it from the draw each time. Dry fire is another really good way to learn your trigger. A lot of people put custom triggers in, or maybe they don't even shoot enough to know their trigger and know the slack in their trigger. Dry fire is a great way to build that relationship. Anytime you get a new gun, you should dry fire it. Anytime you get a new piece of equipment, you should dry fire it. Give it those reps without any boom, any ammunition. Now, lastly, I'm going to incorporate movement. So because I'm running from concealed, I'm going to just step into my box or my target or behind the barricade that I would be shooting from. So imagine the situation you're in. You could use furniture, you can use walls in your house. In this case, being on the mats, I'm just going to step into my box, stabilize, take my shots, transition. Last drill I'm going to show you is for reloads. There are really two types of reloads you can work on with dry fire. One of them is with the lockback and one of them is without a lockback. So without the lockback, obviously you're going to want to rack the slide, and if you want to practice dropping the thumb, which is significantly faster, you're going to want to lock the slide first and basically take the gun from a lockback position and work your reloads. So I'm going to do both of them. You kind of see what I'm talking about. And remember, as always, now that you're using snap caps, you're going to want to make sure you do a buddy check and you're not using any live ammo anywhere in the house that you're using it. I have an empty mag and I have one with dummies. So for the lockback drill, I'm going to lock the gun back and I'm going to put the empty magazine in, and then I'm going to have my loaded mag or my dummy loaded mag into my sidecar, or if you're using an outside the waistband, just off in your mags. I don't need to work from the draw, although I could work from the draw, it just wouldn't be the same, so I don't work from there. I'm going to be working just from here and then coming back, lifting the shirt and loading. It takes quite a bit of resetting, so be patient with it, but this is going to significantly increase the speed of your reloads. Now, if I ever want to increase the difficulty of the drill, all I do is incorporate movement. So when I teach students carrying from concealed or really any modality, I train them to move their feet when they're drawing, and I train them to move their feet when they're reloading. Why? It reminds people to get behind cover on a reload. It reminds people to get off the X when they're drawing. So all I'm going to do is now take a step after my reload initiates, and you'll just watch when you're doing this at home, it's so much more challenging to actually shuffle your feet, move to another place, run to a barricade while you're doing a reload. Now I'm going to work on the reload drill where slide does not lock back. I think that's something people don't practice enough of, is that muscle memory of how to rack it. Whenever I'm teaching newer shooters, I always want to teach them the rack the slide method as opposed to the drop the thumb, for no reason other than under stress. I see newer shooters sometimes, it's not like dexterity necessarily, it's they forget to drop that, or they have difficulty dropping that under like more stressful situations, whereas the rack is like a pretty much guaranteed way to get that next round in. It's a good way to practice anyway, for newer shooters, but it's also really good practice because sometimes that slide does not lock to the rear. Usually it's user induced. The shooter has their palm too high and they keep the slide lock depressed, but for whatever reason it can happen and you just want to practice it. For this drill, I'm just going to drop the mag, insert, rack, and continue. Those are 3 drills that I use to make myself better during dry fire. I like to work from concealed, but you can work these drills from any way that you carry, outside, concealed in the rear, whatever you want to do, even in a handbag. The most important thing is that you are just dry firing. Get out there and train. If you like what you saw, please let us know in the comment section what you liked. Also let us know the types of dry fire drills that you do. Also maybe some of the equipment that you're using for dry fire. There are a lot of products out there. We had mentioned the Mantis, but there are a few others that people are really liking. So please tell us what you guys are doing. And as always, if you liked, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We have more videos on this and other dry fire drills coming out. And check it out at USCCA and USCCA.com. As always, continue training, because that's how we move forward and that's how we progress. Hey, before you go, make sure you check out the free giveaway that USCCA has going on right now. The link is below in the description, where you can get all the details on how you can enter.